Yeah, hi, this is a Korg M1 that I'm sadly putting out on eBay because I haven't been using it at all actually for the last 3 years. I've had it myself for about 15 years. Originally, it was manufactured back in 1988 through to 1994 by Korg, retailed here in the UK for about £1,500. It uses a sample synthesis system, which is subtractive. It back in the day, it actually outsold the Yamaha DX7 and the Roland D50. It has an internal 8-track sequencer, which is absolutely great. It's got 4 outputs and it's very easy to program because of its digital display. Now, if you were a sound designer back in the 90s, this was your sound palette, whether it be anything from a period production right the way through to a sci-fi blockbuster. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll over the keyboard so it's facing with its backside up in the air. We are going to undo the screws at the base to reveal the internals. We'll do this very, very quickly. There's several screws here, so it's always good to have what I call good screws management. Try to keep all your screws in more or less as the order in which you're taking them out or in one particular place. And voila, the internals are exposed. And as you can see, there's quite a few controller boards here. What we'll have to do is the larger board in the center, which if I move the camera slightly, gives you a good view of the internals from the power supply, which again is another issue if you're having problems in the keyboard itself switching on, or having difficulty in switching it off without pulling it from the socket. Well, then the power supply is easily accessed here. Again, there is an internal fuse that you should check, and if there are any dodgy capacitors here, then this again with capacitors, their renewing properties do diminish over a period of time. And again, you know, these keyboards are approaching 20 odd years, so bear that in mind. Also, be careful that when we do roll the keyboard over, that we don't damage the joystick because of the weight of the keyboard, as you know. Just be careful with that. The large board in the middle here, we have to unscrew. There's 4 screws here. If we undo that together with, there's 2 other screws that help locate one of the cartridge inserts. So we have to undo those 2 screws as well. There's also 2 cable leads that we have to remove. One which comes from the power supply and the other one which comes from another controller board. So if we remove those and make sure that they are not damaged, and then that'll obviously give us access to the board underneath. I'll just try to give you a different angle now. Just to reveal where the internal battery is. It's not soldered in, so you can clip it in and clip it out. It takes a CR2032, I think. Yes, it does. And basically you just slide that out and slide that in. But before you do that, make sure that you do back up your sounds. If you've got any sounds on your keyboard, I've got to remember to tell you that. When you do put your new battery in, it will reset all of the sounds on your keyboard, or will not give you any sounds at all. So there. To get over that, I'm sure there's a number of websites and places where you can actually get the M1 factory preloaded sounds. There's actually a M1 preload MIDI file which is available. There is a SSX file, but I would go with the MIDI file version because you basically just load it into your DAW. You set the channel which your keyboard is on, i.e. channel 1. Make sure that your DAW is on channel 1, and you load that particular MIDI file in, and then you play it locked in to your keyboard, and you'll find that it will load all of the sounds back on there. You switch your keyboard off, then you switch it on, and then voila, you'll see that the first sound on your internal keyboard memory is Universe, and success. Now, after all of that's all done, we're going to have a look at the other areas of the keyboard. When you do undo the sound and expose the base of the keyboard in this way, it's always good to make sure that all of the ribbon leads and all of the leads going from one board to another, that you check them to make sure that they are firmly housed back in, because sometimes they do work their way loose, and where people in the past have said to me that they've had either MIDI issue problems, or sometimes they lose a sound, or it's not storing a sound, or suddenly the modulation isn't quite working where they thought it was, or something's missing, or and so on. Just check and make sure that all of the ribbons are firmly in place. What I also do is I actually go and take another board out, which houses just behind the display board, and actually clean the display, because sometimes dust gets on the display underneath the glass area, so I give that a clean, and basically any dust just remove. But once you've done all of that, just reverse what you've done, screw the panel back and turn the keyboard over, and brand new keyboard. Oh, and by the way, the keyboard itself is very sturdy. But again, if you've got a good switch cleaner, just give it a good spray. Just make sure that there isn't any debris there in between the contacts. Again, this is another problem which people find with keyboards of this era, where some of the contacts suddenly become dead, because it comes down to dirt build-up and so on. So once you've exposed it, just give it a good clean all round. It's relatively easy to do. You can take out the keys at this stage because they clip in and clip out if you remove the top layer board. But again, these things are exposed, and so therefore, yeah, just a clean, and it should solve any problems that you've got with any dead keys. Okay, good luck. Oh, and please bid on it. Bye-bye.